What if one of the oldest ideas about human relationships is actually one of the newest? Today, many people assume that spending an entire lifetime with one partner is simply human nature, that our distant ancestors lived exactly as we hope to live today. One man, one woman, one lifelong commitment. But when scientists began studying the lives of hunter-gatherers, the people whose way of life most closely resembles that of our prehistoric ancestors, they uncovered a far more complex story. To understand it, we have to erase almost everything that defines modern relationships. No churches, no marriage licenses, no wedding rings, no courts deciding who belongs to whom. Now imagine standing on an open grassland nearly 200,000 years ago. A small band of perhaps 40 people travels together, carrying everything they own. There are no permanent homes, no locked doors, and no private bedrooms. Every meal is shared. Every journey is made together. Survival depends not on wealth, but on cooperation. In a world like this, relationships couldn't be built on legal contracts. They were built on trust, shared effort, and the daily choice to remain together. Yet that doesn't mean people lacked commitment. Quite the opposite. Humans evolved to form unusually strong emotional bonds. Compared with most mammals, we invest extraordinary amounts of time and energy into raising our children. A human baby remains dependent for years, demanding constant protection, food, and care. That challenge encouraged deep attachments between parents, but deep attachment is not the same thing as permanent attachment. The question isn't whether our ancestors loved. They almost certainly did. The real mystery is whether they expected that love to last forever, or whether lifelong marriage is a cultural invention that arrived much later. To answer that question, we need to follow the evidence left, not in ancient monuments, but in the lives of the few hunter-gatherer societies that still survive today. One of the best places to search for humanity's past is not in museums or fossils, but among people whose lifestyles have changed very little over thousands of years. In the dry savannas of East Africa lives a hunter-gatherer community known as the Hadza. Although their lives today are influenced by the modern world, they still offer anthropologists a rare window into how small mobile societies function. When researchers observe their family life, they notice something surprising. People certainly formed committed relationships. Couples worked together, raised children together, and often developed deep affection for one another. But those relationships were not always expected to last until death. If a partnership became unhappy or stopped working, separation was usually accepted as part of life, rather than a public scandal. Many people eventually found new partners, creating new households and raising more children together. That flexibility wasn't viewed as a failure. It was simply one way of adapting to an unpredictable world. Think about the challenges they faced. A poor hunting season could last weeks. Illness could strike without warning. A dangerous journey might claim someone's life. Every decision had consequences for survival, and relationships often changed alongside those realities. This doesn't mean people treated love casually. In fact, emotional attachment may have been even stronger, because life itself was so uncertain. Every goodbye before a hunt carried risk. Every reunion around the evening fire was a small victory. The bond between two people wasn't measured by a legal promise, it was measured by daily cooperation. Who shared their food? Who protected their children? Who remained dependable when times became difficult? These were the qualities that earned trust. Anthropologists have found that in many hunter-gatherer societies, generosity and reliability often made someone a more desirable partner than physical strength alone. A skilled hunter who willingly shared food with others built a reputation that spread through the entire community. And reputation mattered. In a camp where everyone knew everyone else, selfishness couldn't stay hidden for long. Neither could kindness. This tells us something important about our own species. For much of human history, relationships weren't held together by laws or ceremonies. They were held together by mutual benefit, emotional connection, and the respect earned through everyday actions. Perhaps that's why humans developed such powerful social instincts. We don't simply seek attractive partners. We look for people we can trust, people who make us feel safe, people who continue showing up, even when life becomes difficult. Those instincts were shaped long before the first cities appeared, and they remain with us today. But if commitment mattered so much, another question naturally follows. What made one person stand out from everyone else? Why did some individuals attract partners again and again, while others struggled to find one at all? The answer had very little to do with appearance and almost everything to do with survival. In today's world, attraction can seem influenced by countless things: appearance, wealth, personality, or social status. But for our prehistoric ancestors, the equation was much simpler. Could you help others survive? That single question shaped nearly everything. Imagine returning to camp after a long day. One hunter comes back empty-handed for the 5th time in a row. Another arrives carrying enough meat to feed several families. Before a single word is spoken, everyone notices the difference. Food was more than nourishment. It was security. A successful hunter wasn't admired simply because he was skilled. He represented something every family desperately needed: a better chance of surviving another week. Anthropologists studying indigenous hunter-gatherer societies have repeatedly found that people who consistently contributed to the group often enjoyed greater respect and, in many cases, greater success in finding partners. But an important detail is often overlooked. The best hunters didn't always keep the largest share for themselves. In many communities, they were expected to share widely. At first, that seems unfair. Why should the person who worked the hardest give away most of the reward? Because generosity created something even more valuable than food. It created trust. One day you might return with a successful hunt. The next week, you might find nothing at all. By sharing today, you increase the chances that others would help you tomorrow. This system transformed individual success into collective survival. And people noticed who played by those unwritten rules. Someone known for selfishness could lose respect remarkably quickly. But someone who consistently helped others built a reputation that lasted for years. That reputation often mattered far beyond friendship. It influenced who wanted to build a life with you. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes perfect sense. Choosing a dependable partner wasn't only about romance, it was about increasing the odds that future children would survive. Yet even in close relationships, another powerful emotion quietly shaped human behavior: jealousy. Many people think jealousy is a modern problem, fueled by social media or changing cultural expectations. In reality, psychologists believe its roots stretch deep into our evolutionary past. Imagine living in a camp where everyone sleeps only a few steps apart. You notice lingering conversations, shared laughter, a glance that lasts a little too long. There are no walls to hide behind, and almost no privacy. In such a small community, relationships become visible to everyone. Strong emotional bonds naturally created the fear of losing them. Researchers studying human behavior have argued that jealousy evolved because close partnerships carried enormous value. Losing a trusted companion could mean losing protection, food, cooperation, or support in raising children. That doesn't excuse violence or possessiveness, but it helps explain why emotions surrounding love can become so intense. The same brain capable of extraordinary affection is also capable of profound heartbreak. These emotions didn't appear with modern civilization. They traveled with our ancestors across forests, deserts, and frozen plains, long before history was ever written. Love and jealousy have always existed side by side. One brings people together. The other reminds them of what they fear losing. And nowhere was that fear more important than in the challenge every prehistoric family faced: the enormous task of raising a human child. For most animals, raising offspring is a relatively short chapter. For humans, it became one of the greatest challenges evolution ever created. As our ancestors' brains grew larger, babies were born increasingly helpless. A newborn couldn't walk, feed itself, or even cling to its mother the way many young primates can. Instead, a human child required years of constant care before becoming independent. That changed everything. No matter how capable two parents were, there were times when they simply couldn't do it alone. While one adult searched for food, someone had to protect the children. When illness struck, others stepped in. Grandparents shared knowledge. Older siblings carried younger ones. Friends watched over sleeping infants while parents worked. Anthropologists call this cooperative breeding, a system in which raising children becomes the responsibility of an entire community rather than only two individuals. In many ways, humans didn't just evolve as couples. We evolved as teams. This may explain why people naturally build friendships, families, and support networks even today. Our survival has always depended on more than one relationship. Some cultures carried this idea even further. Among the Bari people of South America, traditional beliefs held that a child could receive life from more than one man if a woman had multiple partners before giving birth. As a result, several men might each accept responsibility for the same child. To modern ears, that sounds extraordinary, but within their society, it served a practical purpose. More adults willing to provide food, protection, and care often meant greater security for the child. Whether or not their biological understanding was correct, the outcome was clear. Children surrounded by multiple committed caregivers frequently had a better chance of surviving the hardships of life. It's a reminder that human societies have solved the same problems in remarkably different ways. There has never been one universal model for love, marriage, or family. Different environments demanded different solutions. Some societies valued lifelong monogamy, others accepted remarriage after separation. Some allowed one man to have multiple wives. Others placed greater emphasis on individual choice or shared parenting. Each system reflected the realities of its time. But beneath all those differences, something remained surprisingly constant. People still searched for companionship. They still grieved when they lost someone. They still protected the people they loved. And they still dreamed about building a future together. Perhaps that's the real lesson hidden in our past. Human beings have never followed a single script when it comes to relationships. Our ancestors experimented with many ways of forming families, adapting to changing climates, scarce resources, and uncertain lives. The customs changed, but the emotions remained remarkably familiar. Love, trust, hope, jealousy, loss. Those feelings connect us to people who lived tens of thousands of years before the first kingdoms, the first religions, or the first wedding ceremonies. So the next time someone claims there's only one natural way humans have always loved, history tells a more complicated story. Our past wasn't defined by one rule or one tradition, it was defined by adaptation. And perhaps that's why the human story is so extraordinary. Not because we all loved in the same way, but because, across every landscape and every age, we never stopped searching for someone to share the journey with.